I'm gonna put more hell footage in the background of this video. One, because, I mean, there's very little Chivalry 2 footage apart from the trailer, and I'm sure it'd get very boring if I repeated that for 10 minutes and 1 second. And two, the fact that more hell footage is more interesting than Chivalry, if I'm gonna be completely honest with you. Okay, so, Chivalry 2 was announced at Gamescom. It was very exciting and a bit disappointing at the same time. I mean, if we look at the dislikes, it didn't have the best reception from people, and I think that's a bit of an understatement. But anyway, this channel is focused on medieval gaming, so I thought I'd put together everything we know about Chivalry 2 so far into one place. When some more information comes out, I'll be making videos later down the line, so if you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button and follow me on Twitter for the first announcements of new news. But without further ado, let's get straight into everything we know about Chivalry 2. Now, the first thing the developers have said that they were very proud of is the fact that they have doubled the player count in Chivalry 2 from the first one up to 64 players. I think the biggest battles you could do before was 32 players. So now up to 64 players, which, to be fair, for 2020 is still pretty small. Yes, I know Mordhau actually is 64 players, but one, that game came out this year, and two, they've already said, I don't know if this is confirmed yet, but one of the developers told me on Steam that they're planning on pushing that player count up once they got all the servers done, which is pretty much quite good at the moment. So hopefully Mordhau, by the time Chivalry 2 will come out, will have once again put its player count up. So I do feel like 64 players is a little low, but hey, it's still better than the 32 players that we got in the original Chivalry. And yes, they have put in horses, and they consider this to be their biggest addition to the game. That's really what they were trying to push at the PC Gamer Conference, that being able to not just fight on the ground, but also on horseback in order to get more maneuverability and also to help your teammates in different ways, keeping that momentum to do big hits. And yes, this is in Mordhau. People got annoyed at me for keep comparing them, but Chivalry 2, Mordhau, you can see why. Now, except from the bigger player count and the cavalry that are in the game, what else is there? Well, it brings back a lot of the things of the original Chivalry, things like dismemberment, that art style, which looked alright back in the day, but I feel like it does look a bit aged at the moment. It has been improved, the textures are a bit nicer, but I do feel like it has aged more than other art styles. I feel like if they changed it, it would look a lot better rather than going that. But overall, it just looks like that they've used a lot of the same stuff from the first Chivalry, which isn't technically a bad thing, as long as they're able to improve on that upon coming into this new game. The whole game features a new reworked combat system though. I mean, that's what we've been told by them, but I think their gameplay announcement trailer says differently. Well, it does feel different to the original Chivalry, but it looks a bit worse than the original Chivalry. You see when this guy's blocking attacks, see how the animations just feel so janky, and it's coming in quite sharp animations rather than the long, smooth flowing animations that we have from games like Mordhau. And even the first Chivalry did this alright. It was a little bit janky, but back in the day it worked pretty well, and it feels like that they've taken that and just ported it straight over to Chivalry 2 and not really touched it in all that way. In fact, it just looks a little bit more janky than the original Melee. But they have said that all these new rework of the combat system will make it feel the same as before. Well, the best way is the same as before. I mean, they're taking the very heavy weight of the weapons. They're taking that really satisfactory feel of the weapons as they hit into someone with big plate armor or a really weakly armed opponent, chopping bones and bodies off them. As I said, dismemberment is back in the game. But they have said that hopefully this will fix some of the different things, such as, like, you know, spinning and rainbow flick. Everything that people did in the old Chivalry that really annoyed people, that's hopefully not going to be possible in the new Chivalry 2. And it's going to try and focus the combat more around more realistic combat, but also keeping that arcadey feel to make it a bit easier to play as. And they said something about a chicken. Yeah, I'm not 100%. You're able to pick up a chicken and use it as a weapon. So I mean, why not? It looks like they're trying to put some really fun stuff in there, which hopefully, yes, will differentiate itself from a game like Mordhau, which doesn't, like, it has a few funny things in there, like you pick up carrots and couch with carrots and things like that. But hopefully that Chivalry, I think they're going to be more successful if they go towards the funny and the fun stuff sort of play style rather than the gritty, hardcore sort of realistic play style. And it looks like they've got a lot of stuff going in there, such as picking up a chicken and being able to use as a battering ram. But as I said, the art style really does look quite gritty, and I sort of like it. As I said, I'm not too keen on the 2012 Chivalry art style, but you can still get that real grittiness out of it, and that's what it was back in the day. Playing Chivalry felt different from Mount and Blade and War of the Roses. It felt gritty, it felt hardcore. The dark battles lit up by flaming torches, and then also having the really heavy weaponry felt quite gritty. But it sort of confuses the tone of the game a little bit further. I mean, if you have stuff like being able to pick up a chicken and hit someone on the head with it, why are you going with a really gritty art style? It doesn't really seem to fit all that much. I feel like they should either go one way or the other, rather than being a little bit confused in the middle. All you really need to do is just turn the brightness up a little bit, lads. That's all you really need to do. Furthermore, we have things coming back like siege weaponry. I think in the first Chivalry there was battering rams. We've got battering rams in here. We've got catapults. These can actually fire flaming shots, which is quite cool when you're sieging a castle. Does this mean that we're going to have destructive terrain? The gameplay trailer didn't show anything, and they didn't mention anything about destructive terrain, but the fact that you've got a catapult in a siege game really hints, I guess, towards it being like this, maybe. Who knows? Who knows? I really hope that they do put destructive training, because I think that'll be absolutely awesome, and that will come on later when I talk a little bit about the game modes as well, because there's some hints towards it there. Furthermore, fiery hay bales. I really hope these aren't just things that are on the map. Maybe these hay bales are there, you can roll them down the hill, or just light them on fire where they stand to sort of choke point enemies. This probably isn't something that's going to be in, but you can see them in the trailer there. They did keep mentioning cinematic gameplay, trying to recreate moments from history. They mentioned the Battle of the Bastards from Game of Thrones, trying to get these big places and battles that happened and try and recreate them with multiplayer. How well that will go with the multiplayer community, I'm not so sure about it, but it looks like they're trying to focus more on the cinematic options rather than just a regular medieval arcade game. But this does seem that they're looking more about the stupid fun and crossed with the cinematic stuff rather than actual historical accuracy, which I don't have too much of a problem with. I mean, I feel like historical accuracy isn't all that important for a game, unless the game specifically is trying to be historically accurate. I'm absolutely fine with artistic license in there to add some more fun stuff, or just to make the gameplay a bit better. But it's just how they'll balance the historical accuracy with the cinematic nature of it, and with the stupid fun stuff all mixed in there as well. But let's talk a little bit about the game modes, as I mentioned before. There's things called team objectives. These are things like sieging castles, raiding villages. Now, I'm not 100% sure if these are going to be in the same game. So when you go into a battle first, you have to raid the village, you have to kill the people, and then you move forward to siege the castle. Similar thing to Chivalry 1. I think it probably will be more like that. It would make sense. You can do things like burning down houses, which links back to the destructible terrain that I talked about before. If you can burn down houses, can you knock down siege walls with your catapults? Is this something that's going to be possible? That's something that I guess we're going to have to wait to find out, but it looks promising. I mean, you can go around killing peasants, why not? But you can also play as peasants, which is fun, exciting. You can get pitchforks, you can get chickens, you can probably get just sticks and whack people with it. Try and defend your village as another team has to try and burn down your village. After that, you're moving forward to the castle. This sort of harks back to a bit of the trailer that I saw, where you can see the knights, they're running up that passageway. It looks like a lot of their stuff was burnt, there's a lot of dead bodies, but they're moving up and then moving and transitioning into a siege. Maybe they were moving forward their stuff, they were ambushed, they managed to deal with that, and then they had to move forward to the siege. I feel like it would work a lot better rather than just having these set game modes, but having these linear progression game modes. And it does look like that's what they're trying to do with the cinematic options. I mean, think about this. Instead of having like a team deathmatch or a conquest mode, you have a mode where one team starts in a camp, the other team invades that camp. They maybe take over the camp, and then they have to push forward. The team that had the camp before has to now pull back to a village. So now these next guys have to try and get over, try and burn down the village, wipe out the defenders in the village, and even kill the peasants that are in there. Torch their houses, kill their puppers, and try not to get hit by flying chickens. After they do this, they then push forward. The defenders have to retreat, and all the peasants that are in that village have to run back into the castle to try and keep themselves safe. And this is when the attackers bring forward their catapults, their battering rams, their all that sort of siege stuff. And then that is the final objective, to try and take the castle. Having this linear gameplay, I think will prove so much more effective and make this stand out from a game like Mordhau, which at the moment has the crown for that medieval first-person game. It needs to stand out. I did mention this in my video yesterday when it was actually announced. It can't be better than Chivalry 1. It has to be better than Mordhau now. Back in the day, Chivalry 1 was the only game of that sort. Yes, you had games like Mountain Blade and War of the Roses, but they never stuck around because they didn't have that same feeling, and Chivalry 1 did. And if Chivalry 2 came out a year ago, it only had to be better than Chivalry 1. But unfortunately, it's coming out after Mordhau, so now it has to be better than Mordhau, since that game has taken the crown and pushed its way into the medieval first-person genre, which I think is going to be very, very tricky for Chivalry 2 to take back over. Now, it is called a true sequel, so this does indicate that they're trying to use a lot of things from Chivalry 1, but advanced on it rather than remaking the whole game. Whether this is going to work, since the massive gap between the two games, the outdated graphics, the outdated mechanics, let's hope they can move around that, but when are we going to be able to play it? Well, this is where the controversy comes in. Early 2020 is when it's set to be released onto the Epic Games Store. It will be exclusive on the Epic Games Store, and I did mention this yesterday, but then I read into it more, and I knew it was only on the Epic Games Store for initially, and then it would be released elsewhere, but I didn't realize how initially. It would be released on the Epic Games Store for 12 months before it can go anywhere else. Steam, console, wherever. And honestly, to start with, I don't have an issue with the Epic Games Store, but I know a lot of people do. Some of the practices they've done in the past, and that will stop a lot of people from buying it. But I didn't think that would be too bad. Just initial release on the Epic Games Store, maybe for a few months. But a whole year on there? By the time it releases on Steam, do you really think the people that didn't want to buy an Epic Games Store are going to be sticking around a whole year for it to come out on Steam? I really think this is going to kill the game, if I'm going to be completely honest with you. I'm going to buy it on the Epic Games Store because I'm fine buying it on it's just a different store. I don't really see the problems. And yes, Epic Games Store have been said to do some shady things in the past, but if I'm going to be completely honest, I don't really think that makes a difference to Chivalry 2 itself and supporting the developers. And whilst the developers have also not done some great things in the past, I still think it's an interesting game and will shape this medieval first-person genre. Because now if there's competition for Mordhau, hopefully that is going to push them. Not really that they need the pushing straight away, because I doubt that they feel that threatened by Chivalry 2 at this moment, but who knows, maybe it could prove a massive success. But what do you guys think? I think I pretty much covered everything we know about Chivalry 2 so far, but everything else that will be released on these upcoming months, make sure you hit that subscribe button, because I will be releasing them as soon as they come out, and of course, as I said, on Twitter. But what are your thoughts on Chivalry 2? Will it surpass Mordhau, or will it decapitate itself with a poleaxe? Other than that, guys, thank you so much for watching. Make sure you go and check out my other videos on Mordhau, but until then, I'll see you in the next one.